Have you ever stood before something so ancient, so sacred, that you could feel the whispers of history in its very stones? A place that has anchored the faith of millions, a focal point for the prayers of generations. We, as humans, build these monuments. We pour our hopes, our devotion, and our identity into them, believing them to be eternal, unshakable pillars in a fleeting world. But what if the most sacred of all places was destined to fall, not by the hands of a random conqueror, but as part of a divine prophecy, a final shocking sign before the end of all things? Imagine a structure that is not merely a building, but the heart of a global faith, the direction to which over 1 billion souls turn every single day in their most intimate moments of worship. This is the Kaaba, the simple, black-draped cube in the center of Mecca, known as the Beit Allah, the house of God. For centuries, it has stood as a symbol of unity, permanence, and divine protection. Its foundations were laid by the prophet Abraham and his son Ishmael at the dawn of monotheism. It survived floods, fires, and even a direct assault by a king with an army of elephants, an event so miraculous it was immortalized in the Holy Quran itself. It seems inviolable, a testament to God's promise to protect his house. Yet, hidden within the prophetic traditions lies a chilling and profound prophecy. A prophecy that foretells a day when this sacred house will not be protected. A day when it will be dismantled, brick by brick, by a man from a distant land, and God will allow it to happen. This is not a story of defeat, but of a terrifying spiritual truth. It poses a question that strikes at the very core of our understanding of faith. What is the true nature of what we hold sacred? Is it the stone, the ritual, the direction? Or is it something deeper, something that resides within us, something that can never be torn down? Today, we embark on a journey into one of the most startling prophecies in Islamic eschatology. We will seek the hidden wisdom behind the foretold destruction of the Kaaba, and in its shadows, we may just find the true meaning of building a faith that is truly eternal. A. The opening narrative, the echoes of Abraha's folly. To understand the gravity of the Kaaba's foretold fall, we must first journey back to a time when its divine protection was absolute, a story etched into the heart of Islamic tradition. It is the year 570, the year of the elephant. The powerful Abyssinian governor of Yemen, a man named Abraha, was consumed by jealousy. He had built a magnificent cathedral in his own city of Sana'a, hoping to divert the Arab pilgrims and their trade away from Mecca and its ancient Kaaba. But the people's hearts remained tied to the house of Abraham. Their devotion was unshakable. Blinded by arrogance, Abraha decided that if he could not draw the people away from the Kaaba, he would destroy it altogether. He assembled a formidable army, the likes of which the region had never seen, and at its head marched a colossal elephant named Mahmud, a living war machine meant to strike terror into the hearts of the Meccans and trample their simple cube of worship into dust. As the army approached, panic seized Mecca. The Quraysh, the guardians of the Kaaba, knew they were no match for such a force. Their leader, Abd al-Muttalib, the grandfather of the Prophet Muhammad, went out to negotiate, not for the city, but for his own camels that the army had seized. Abraha, amused, mocked him. "I have come to destroy your house of honor, and you are concerned only with your camels." Abd al-Muttalib's reply has echoed through the ages, a profound statement of faith. "As for the camels, they are mine, and I am their Lord. As for the house, it has its own Lord who will protect it." He took his people to the surrounding mountains, leaving the Kaaba to its fate, placing his full trust in God. As Abraha gave the order to advance, the great elephant Mahmud knelt down and refused to move towards the Kaaba. They beat it, they prodded it, but it would not rise. When they turned it in any other direction, it would walk. But as soon as its face was pointed toward the holy sanctuary, it would kneel again. At that moment, the sky darkened. A great flock of birds, described as being like swallows, appeared from the direction of the sea. Each bird carried 3 small stones, one in its beak and one in each claw. They flew over Abraha's army and began to drop the stones. Each pebble, though tiny, struck with the force of a guided missile, piercing through helmets and armor, turning the mighty army into what the Quran describes as like an eaten-up field of corn. Abraha himself was struck and fled in terror, his body disintegrating piece by piece until he finally perished. The Kaaba was saved. God had defended his own house in the most miraculous way imaginable. This event was a clear and undeniable sign of the Kaaba's sanctity and divine protection. It established in the minds of all that this place was under the direct care of the Almighty. This story of divine intervention makes the prophecy of its future destruction all the more shocking. It creates a profound spiritual paradox. Why would God protect his house so dramatically in one era, only to allow its complete demolition in another? The answer lies not in God's power, but in the state of humanity. In the year of the elephant, faith, even in its pre-Islamic form, existed in the hearts of people like Abd al-Muttalib. There was a reverence for the sacred. The prophecy of the Kaaba's fall is not about a building. It is about a time when that reverence will be utterly extinguished from the hearts of men. A time so devoid of faith that the physical symbol will have lost all its meaning, becoming nothing more than a pile of stones. B. The scriptural foundation, the man with thin shanks. The prophecy is not a vague allusion, but is described with specific, unsettling detail in the most authentic collections of hadith, the recorded sayings and traditions of the Prophet Muhammad. In the collection of Sahih al-Bukhari, considered by Sunni Muslims to be the most reliable after the Quran, the Prophet is reported to have said, "The Kaaba will be destroyed by Dhul-Suwayqatayn from Abyssinia." The name Dhul-Suwayqatayn translates to the one with 2 thin shanks, or slender legs, a physical description that adds a startling layer of reality to the prophecy. He is not a mythical beast or a supernatural force, but a man. The prophecy continues, painting a vivid picture of the act itself. The prophet said, "It is as if I can see him now, a black man with thin shanks, dismantling it stone by stone." This is not a swift, explosive destruction. It is a slow, methodical, deliberate act of desecration. He will not burn it or blow it up. He will pry out each sacred stone one by one, and even take its treasure and its kiswa, its black silk covering. The most disturbing part of this prophecy is not the action of the man, but the inaction of the world. In the time of Abraha, an army was sent to defend the Kaaba. In this future time, the traditions tell us, no one will stop him. The world will have fallen into such a state of disbelief and apathy that the destruction of the holiest site in Islam will go unchallenged. This event is not an isolated prophecy. It is presented as one of the final major signs of the Qiyamah, the Day of Judgment. It will occur after the return of Jesus, the Son of Mary, and after the death of the Dajjal, the Antichrist. It will be a time when true belief has been lifted from the earth. Another hadith clarifies this context. The hour will not be established until no one on earth says, "Allah, Allah." In another narration, until no one is left to perform the Hajj pilgrimage. The destruction of the Kaaba is therefore the physical manifestation of a spiritual apocalypse that has already occurred. The building falls only because its foundation in the hearts of humanity has already crumbled to dust. the sacred symbol is removed because the reality it points to, the worship of the one true God, has been abandoned. So, the question shifts. The prophecy is not asking, how could God let this happen? But rather, what state must humanity reach for God to allow this to happen? It is a warning sign pointing directly at us. It is a divine message that the sanctity of a place is intrinsically linked to the sanctity within the hearts of its believers. When the heart is empty of God, the house of God on earth becomes an empty shell. See, the tapestry of universal wisdom, the Kaaba of the heart. This idea that the true temple is not made of stone but of spirit is a truth that resonates across the great spiritual traditions of the world. The destruction of a physical sanctuary as a sign of spiritual decay is a powerful recurring theme in human history. In the Jewish faith, the first and second temples in Jerusalem were the epicenters of their spiritual universe. They were considered the literal dwelling place of God's presence on earth. Yet, both were destroyed. The destruction of the Second Temple by the Romans in 70 AD was a cataclysmic event that could have signaled the end of Judaism, but it did not. Instead, it forced a profound transformation. Faith was no longer located in a single building, but became portable, residing in the Torah, in the synagogue, in the home, and most importantly, in the heart of every believer. The religion survived its greatest physical loss because its spiritual core was preserved and adapted. The rabbis taught that acts of loving kindness could now rebuild the temple within the community and the self. Christianity, born from this tradition, carried the theme forward. Jesus himself spoke of this transition. When told of the magnificence of the temple in Jerusalem, he prophesied its destruction, saying, "There will not be left here one stone upon another that will not be thrown down." He then pointed towards a new understanding of the sacred, famously declaring, "Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up." The Apostle John clarifies, but he was speaking about the temple of his body. This shifted the focus from a physical location to a spiritual reality, a concept further expanded by the Apostle Paul, who wrote to the believers, "Do you not know that you are God's temple and that God's Spirit dwells in you?" The ultimate sanctuary was no longer a place you go to, but what you are. This universal truth finds its most poetic expression in the mystical traditions, particularly in Sufism within Islam. The great poet and sage Rumi spoke constantly of the Kaaba of the heart. He wrote, "I went on Hajj to the Kaaba of clay, but the real Kaaba is the heart. What use is it to circle the stone if the heart is blind?" For Rumi and countless other mystics, the physical pilgrimage to Mecca was merely an outer reflection of a far more important inner journey, the pilgrimage to the sanctuary of one's own heart, to cleanse it of idols and make it a worthy dwelling place for the divine presence. In this light, the prophecy of Dhul-Suwayqatayn becomes a cosmic lesson. It is the universe's final dramatic statement that God's true home has never been a structure of clay and stone. These are merely symbols, signposts, a qibla, a direction to help unify our focus. The real house of God is a pure and devoted heart. The prophecy warns of a time when humanity will have forgotten this, when their religion will have become a hollow shell of external rituals, focusing on the signpost while ignoring the destination. At that point, the signpost itself will be removed, for it will no longer serve a purpose. It is a divine act of mercy in a way, shattering the final idol to which people cling, forcing any who remain to look for God where He has always been, within. D. The bridge to the wider world, the psychology of sacred symbols. From a psychological and sociological perspective, humanity's drive to create sacred spaces is a fundamental part of our existence. We build cathedrals, temples, mosques, and monuments to anchor our beliefs in the physical world. These structures serve as powerful symbols of collective identity, a place for community gathering, and a tangible connection to the transcendent. They are focal points that concentrate spiritual energy and historical memory. The Kaaba is perhaps the ultimate example of this. For a Muslim, it is more than a symbol. It is a point of existential orientation. No matter where they are in the world, in a bustling city or a remote village, they know that every other Muslim is facing this same point. It creates a profound sense of unity and shared purpose, a global community bound by a single, invisible line of intention. What happens then when such a central symbol is threatened or destroyed? History shows us that the impact is devastating. The destruction of the Library of Alexandria, the burning of the Notre Dame Cathedral, the demolition of the Buddhas of Bamiyan by the Taliban, these were not just architectural losses. They were attacks on the soul of a culture, attempts to erase memory and identity. They leave a deep scar of trauma and disorientation. The prophecy of the Kaaba's destruction, however, is different. It is not an external attack by a rival civilization seeking to impose its will. It is described as an event that occurs in a spiritual vacuum. Dhul-Suwayqatayn is not the leader of a conquering faith. He is depicted almost as a scavenger, picking apart a relic that no one else values. The horror of the prophecy is not the act itself, but the global silence in which it happens. This speaks to a profound psychological truth. Symbols only have power because we imbue them with meaning. A flag is just a piece of cloth until people are willing to die for what it represents. A building is just stone and mortar until it becomes the house of God in the hearts of believers. The prophecy foretells a time of ultimate spiritual inflation, a time when humanity's consciousness has fallen so low that the meaning has completely drained from the symbol. The destruction is not the cause of the spiritual death, but its final symptom. It forces us to confront the danger of spiritual materialism, the tendency to mistake the symbol for the reality, the ritual for the devotion, the building for the God it houses. It is a warning against a faith that becomes so externalized that it has no inner life. When the inner connection is severed, the outer symbol becomes fragile, vulnerable, and ultimately meaningless. The prophecy is a timeless reminder that the most sacred structures are not built on land, but on the foundations of sincere faith within the human soul. The spiritual core and practical application, building the unshakable temple. So what is the ultimate lesson of this terrifying prophecy? Is it to live in fear of a future event, to watch the horizons for a man with thin shanks? No. The wisdom of prophecy is never merely to predict the future, but to transform the present. The story of the Kaaba's fall is a profound and urgent call to action, not for our hands, but for our hearts. It is a divine imperative to stop focusing on the preservation of the outer temple and start building the inner one. The core message is this: the only sanctuary that is truly eternal, the only temple that can never be destroyed, is the heart that is purified and submitted to God. While the physical Kaaba can be dismantled stone by stone, a heart filled with faith, love, and consciousness of the divine is inviolable. Dhul-Suwayqatayn can tear down a building, but he has no power over a soul that has become a true house of God. This brings the prophecy from the distant future directly into our present moment, into our daily lives. It asks each of us to engage in a process of spiritual construction. How do we build this inner Kaaba? First, we lay the foundation with Tawhid, the absolute belief in the oneness of God. This means clearing the heart of all other idols, our ego, our attachment to wealth, status, worldly desires, and even our attachment to religious symbols for their own sake. Just as the Prophet Muhammad cleared the physical Kaaba of 360 idols, we must clear our inner sanctuary of all that competes with God for our ultimate devotion. Second, we build the walls with sincere acts of worship, ibadah. Every prayer, every moment of remembrance, dhikr, every act of charity is a brick laid in the construction of this inner temple. But it must be done with presence and sincerity, ikhlas, not as a mechanical ritual. A prayer offered with a distracted mind is like a brick laid with crumbling mortar. It does not strengthen the structure. True worship is the constant polishing of the heart, making it a clear mirror to reflect the divine light. Third, we adorn the sanctuary with beautiful character, akhlaq. Compassion, mercy, forgiveness, truthfulness, and patience are the sacred decorations of the inner Kaaba. A heart full of faith must manifest that faith in its treatment of others. As the Prophet said, the believer is not the one who curses, nor the one who speaks obscenely. The beauty of the inner temple is seen in the beauty of our interactions with all of creation. The practical application of this prophecy, therefore, is a deep, personal self-examination. Ask yourself, where is my Kaaba? Is my faith dependent on a place, a person, or a ritual? Or is it a living, breathing connection with my Creator that I carry with me everywhere? Do I circle the outer house with my body while my heart circles the idols of the world? The prophecy of the Kaaba's destruction is not a message of despair. It is a message of profound hope and empowerment. It tells us that the most sacred thing in the universe is not out there, but right here, within us, waiting to be built. Let the world fall into chaos. Let buildings crumble. The one who has built a sanctuary for God within their own soul will have found a peace that cannot be shaken and a home that lasts for eternity. The illumination. We have journeyed through history and prophecy, from a moment of miraculous protection to a foretold moment of shocking desecration. We have seen how the story of the Kaaba is not merely the story of a stone building, but a mirror reflecting the state of the human heart. The prophecy of its fall at the hands of Dhul-Suwayqatayn is not a conclusion, but a revelation. It reveals a timeless spiritual law that the physical is but a shadow of the spiritual. An outer sanctuary can only stand as long as the inner sanctuary is maintained. When humanity collectively turns its back on God, the symbols of His presence are lifted from the earth. But the final message is not one of impending doom. It is one of profound personal responsibility and ultimate hope. The prophecy serves as the most powerful reminder that we must not anchor our faith in things that are impermanent. We must not worship the symbol, but the reality to which it points. The true pilgrimage is the journey inward. The true sanctuary is the heart. The stones of the Kaaba in Mecca may one day be scattered, but the spiritual Kaaba, built within a soul through sincerity, prayer, and love, is beyond the reach of any destroyer. It is eternal, unshakable, and safe in the hands of God. Let this ancient prophecy not be a source of fear, but a catalyst for awakening. Let it inspire us to shift our focus from the perishable to the eternal. Let us begin today the sacred work of construction, not with stone and mortar, but with remembrance and devotion. For when the heart becomes a true house of God, we find a peace that the chaos of the world cannot touch, and a faith that will stand firm even on the day the mountains themselves are turned to dust. The journey to God does not begin with a step towards a place, but with a turn of the heart towards Him. And that is a journey that can begin right here, right now. If this reflection touched your heart and expanded your understanding, join our community for more journeys in search of the truth hidden in history and the human soul. On our channel, we explore the great questions of life, drawing wisdom from the sacred traditions that have guided humanity for millennia. We believe that the wisdom we revive from ancestral sources can strengthen your spirit and illuminate your path. Your support is vital. We ask that you subscribe, share, like, and comment. This helps us reach more seekers of truth. Your feedback inspires us and helps us shape the future of our journey together. May peace and light be with all of you. May we find wisdom and strength on our shared path. Until the next video.